One of the most important parts of a successful IEP meeting is good preparation. You want to make sure you're scheduling that meeting well in advance so that you have time to contact all team members and so that you have a little bit of cushion if you need to reschedule the meeting. Prior to the meeting, you want to be sure that you've contacted the parents, general ed teachers, therapists, or any other team members that are going to be involved in the IEP. Some teachers choose to send surveys to the parents and to the teachers that allow them to offer input. Oftentimes, our therapist or other team members can actually go online to your IEP program and put in their summaries of present level of performance and their goals. Or you can share information through emails. But it's just very important that all team members know well in advance when the meeting is going to be and that they have an ample opportunity to offer input. If the parent should share any concerns or questions prior to the meeting, it's very, very important that you have opportunity to discuss this with the parents. As we've talked about before, having that opportunity to resolve some issues prior to a meeting can really save a lot of time and stress, to be honest, to your IEP team. As soon as you feel confident that you have the information you need, you can go ahead and create your draft IEP and then share that with your core team members. Now, most of you probably have online programs and that are set up so that you can actually provide access to the team members. I know this is true for Virginia IEP, and I feel sure it's probably true for most other IEP programs. Be sure that you're sharing a copy with the parents. And it's good to do this at least 1 week prior to the IEP so that, once again, everyone has a chance to look over that IEP, study it, and discuss any concerns prior to the actual meeting. One other preparation is to determine who will actually be leading the IEP meeting. In most school systems, the case manager leads the IEP meeting. However, there are some school systems where the administrator takes that lead. Doesn't really matter either way. You just need to be clear who's in charge of leading the meeting so that there's no confusion. The person who is in charge of leading the meeting should open the meeting by explaining the purpose of the meeting and introducing each of the team members or having them introduce themselves and explain their roles. One advantage of sharing a draft IEP prior to the meeting is that this allows you to simply review the information in the actual meeting and not have to read the IEP word for word. I feel like this is the best option for parents because the parents having the draft prior to the meeting, they can actually read it and study it and discuss it in a more comfortable setting than sitting in a meeting with different staff members. So it really is an advantage for everyone. It saves a lot of time for school staff and also saves a lot of time for parents as well. So provided that you have given everyone a copy of the IEP draft or at least access to it, you can begin reviewing the meeting by simply saying, has everyone had a chance to review the plot? If everyone answers yes, as you would expect, then you can simply go over some of the highlights of that information or a brief summary of the plot, ask if anyone has any additional questions or comment, and go on to the next section. You would do the same process for the goals, accommodations, etc. Simply highlight some of the more important information, ask if there's any questions, and move on. It is good practice to involve students in their own IEP meetings as soon as the team and the parents feel that the student is mature enough to participate. Beginning with age 13, it is required that the IEP team invite the students and that the student participate in the IEP team meeting to the degree that they are able to do so. In fact, they should be in attendance unless the parents and the team feel very strongly that it is not in the student's best interest. If the student is of age that they have a transition plan, then that student should be the one who describes their own personal strengths, interests, and goals to the team. That student should also be able to explain how their IEP supports their personal goals. This helps the student to develop self-advocacy skills that they will be using throughout their life. We can support students in preparing for their IEP meetings by helping them to prepare documents to share with the team, helping them to do PowerPoints, and for some students who may become nervous in a group setting, even video recording their presentation and then sharing it with the team may be an option. There's many ways that you can help that student get their point across and advocate for themselves. Be creative, work with the student, let the student lead the way, and let the student own this meeting. Students who are a part of their IEP meeting, and especially those who lead their IEP meetings, feel much more invested in their educational program. IEP meetings are generally very positive. They're an opportunity for team members to come together and discuss the student's progress and look forward to new goals. If a meeting has gone well, at the end of the meeting, you may ask one more time, does anyone have any questions or concerns or comments? And if everyone is good with the IEP, then you go ahead and have team members sign that they attended and have the parents sign, or the student, if they happen to be over 18, permission to implement the IEP. Now, I want to stress here, be cautious about any time that someone asks you to sign an IEP meeting as though you were there when you weren't there. This is a legal document, and if you're signing that you attended the meeting, make sure that you did attend the meeting. If something should happen that you can't be there for the entire meeting, you may want to make that note next to your signature. But make sure that if you signed that you were in attendance, that you were actually in attendance. If everything's gone well and there's been no questions, then your prior written notice should be very simple. Most school systems have a form where you just kind of fill out on that form what has been decided at the meeting. Now, if there were some issues during the meeting, specifically if there were some proposals that the parents made that the school refused, this needs to be clearly documented in your prior written notice. If it was a real sticky meeting and you're not comfortable documenting that, you may want to wait a couple of days and get some help from central office even before you get that prior written notice to the parents. If you are having to explain in a prior written notice why you refused a proposal, be sure that you always focus on the IEP and whether it is providing FAPE for the student. The decision should be defendable through the special ed guidelines and by your data that you've shared at the meeting. It's very important that you're confident in an IEP that you develop for a student. You must know that that IEP ensures that that student is being provided a free and appropriate education in his or her least restrictive environment. You must be able to defend this, and the best way to defend an IEP is with good, solid data that shows steady progress towards identified goals. It's also important that you know that that IEP is being implemented exactly as written. Don't ever include in an IEP anything that you do not know for sure can and will be implemented to the letter. Make sure that the parent and the student are confident that they have been listened to and that their input has been carefully considered. Confidence in an IEP will give you confidence in serving a student. At any point that you do not think an IEP is appropriate for a student or any parts of it need to be adjusted, I would highly recommend coming back to your team, sitting down, and reviewing and amending an IEP. It's so important that you feel like what you're doing is lined up with the IEP and that is showing success for the student. This will give you confidence in all parts of your work as a special education teacher, and it will prepare you to best serve your students.